Now I'm going a little bit off here. I don't know if you're familiar with Thomas Miller. He's
No.
on the death row in
Oh,
Texas. He's been,
okay. I know of him, yeah.
because we were talking yesterday in class about black being a little bit
Be a factor. Yeah. This guy the Supreme Court has had his case 3 or 4 times, and they finally stopped his execution. I think he's now doing life without, I believe. Didn't they permanently stop his execution?
Yeah,
I think so.
I think it was a couple of months ago. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I've been a prosecutor, and I tell you, I've seen young people, period, do some real awful things. And I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to be self-righteous and say that those who would support the death penalty are awful people. I've been a prosecutor, and I understand it. I have some real misgivings about the death penalty myself, in the main, because I think if you get a chance to look at all the 1,000 folks who've been executed since the Supreme Court approved the death penalty in whatever year that was, you probably find that probably more than 90% of them are either black or poor. And that's something ain't right about that. I just don't. If our country is a country where only the black and the poor commit awful crimes, then we need to do something about improving the quality of life of the black and poor, so they don't have to commit those crimes. Because there must be something related to being poor that make you. Yet I have some difficulty believing those are the only ones committing those crimes. I think that if your resources are just right, you can manage to get past the death penalty. Witness my good friend O.J., who had the best criminal defense lawyers in the world. Whatever you think about that boy who just died, Johnny Cochran, he was skilled at playing with judges and juries, and this judge Ito was not up to him during that trial. I mean, he was better than Ito. He was more in control of the courtroom than Ito was, and that ain't negative. A lawyer's supposed to. That's what a lawyer's supposed to do. But in any case, my point is that you just don't find folk who have great resources getting the death penalty.
Now again, yesterday in class we were talking about the black male sort of conspiracy about, since black men got in this country, the condition have never significantly changed, sort of.
Yes, that continues even today in my mind to be some concern on the part of, this is my view, on the part of the white majority, that black males, particularly young black males, represent a threat to their very survival. That is, as you know, if you have a child between a black person and a white person, under America's tradition, the resultant child is black, no matter what that child's color is. I mean, that's America's. That's as American as ever. That's been the situation since America's had black folk over here. So white folk are somewhat threatened. I believe. Now, of course, I'm not inside their head. Somewhat threatened by black males because they think that black males may what used to be called defile white women. I think that's softening some. But I think there's still a strong undercurrent that supports that, and that undercurrent runs throughout America's justice system as well as the rest of its system, so that you'll have police and courts who do things to try to keep black males particularly in their place. So I think that's still there, and it's not nearly like it was in 1950 or 46 when I started the school, or in 1960 when I was in the sit-ins, or even in 1970 when we were starting Lee County Corporate Clinic, but it's still there.
So you gave some numbers about that.
You mean in terms of the percentage of whites who would, God, that would be hard. And I really would, I'd hesitate to try to say what percentage of white folk, and the reason why I hesitate to say that is I think many white folk are like, I have to tell you some truths about myself. I think many white folk are like myself. I mean, I know that there are many white folk out here who are trying to be fair and just and treat black folks the same way they'd want to be treated. I know that intellectually. But I still am always extremely concerned that I need to be extremely careful that I not leave myself open to be misused or abused by some white person who may not have any intention whatsoever of misusing and abusing me. But I'm 65, 64 and a half years old, and I suspect that there are white folk who have the view that would be the mirror image of that. That is, they know in their heart that black folk are equal in every way and should be treated the same way, and yet they have difficulty treating black folk the same way. So it's hard for me to put a number on that. I just think that maybe all of us old timers got to die out. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you young people can, and I say that honestly. Maybe you young people will find a way to get past some of this, because as I said, I know many white people. Intellect say, just like my intellect says, white folks are just like black folk. That's what my intellect tells me. But my actions tell me I need to be careful because I can't do what some of my white friends can do, and therefore I have to be more careful in them. And anyway, that's what I can't put a number on it. I just don't know.
The numbers about those in jail, for example.
Oh, in terms of the jail people, see, in Arkansas, we've got the total black population in Arkansas is 15.9% according to the 2000 census. The prison population 2 years ago was 49 point something percent. Now I think it's about 44 point something percent. Now, if 15.9% of the population produce 44% of the prison population, something is not quite right. Now, somebody could say, well, more black people are poor, therefore they do more crimes. That may be true, but that doesn't completely explain it. It may explain it in part in some numbers. And so there's something to do with the fact that this thing I was just describing, this intellectual knowledge versus your actual conduct, don't always run together. My intellectual knowledge is that everybody's all right and not trying to do something to me. My conduct is be careful, you'll get hurt. And I think that there are white people whose intellectual knowledge is black folk all right, should treat them the same, but their conduct is, I need to straighten him up because he's getting out of his place. And I'm overstating it to make the point.
I understand. Okay. And now if you can tell a little bit more about your personal story. I don't know where you grew up and all that.
I was born in Lee County, Arkansas, about 10 miles west of Mariana, to a man who had completed the second grade, promoted to the third grade, and a woman who at that time had probably not completed any college, but who subsequently in 1959, a year after I graduated from high school, graduated from college. She would go to college every summer. I was my mother had 8 children. My father had 11, but altogether we had over 13 of us. That is, my mother's mother had 2 children, not by my father. My father had 5 children, not by my mother. So there were 13 of us altogether. And we were raised on a little farm. My daddy always believed that since he had so many boys, and there were 8 boys and 9 boys and 4 girls, since he had so many boys, he had to have something to do, something for them to do other than walk in the streets. And so we always kept a little farm, and we worked on the farm. So I grew up knowing how to work, picking and chopping cotton. I used to chop cotton by the day when I was 7, making $3 a day, $3 for a 10-hour day. My dad and mama both, though, were insistent that we go to school every time you were supposed to be in school. That is, my daddy, even though he was trying to raise a little cotton crop, would not take us out of school to either chop the cotton or in the fall to pick the cotton. We go to school and chop big cotton on Saturday, and he'd do the best he could during the rest of the week. That means my daddy never had a great crop, and he never made a lot of money, but he always had plenty of food for us to eat. I left Mariana in '58 to go to Lemoyne in Memphis, and that's where I actually dropped out of Lemoyne in 1960 '61 because of my frustration with how citizens in Memphis were responding to the sit-ins. I thought, in my naivete and in my notion that the world was going to be all right, I thought in 1960 that when we started the sit-ins in Memphis, that all of Memphis's black citizens would join with us to make those people there do right or not have our money to put in their pockets. It didn't work that way, and it was very frustrating to me as an 18-year-old then, and so I left Memphis and went to Chicago in '61 and had a real